for 1,000.
What's the difference between that and?
This is the Economic Development Commission. It's Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And all of our members are here tonight. We'll go around the room. Michael McMahon.
Serena Fuller.
Craig Samuelson.
John Cody.
Amber Bach.
Okay. First we have, any public comments? Yes,
Yep, Inga Hoteling, 45 Klein Road. What I chose to do tonight is give everyone a packet. The packet consists of a mock layout of what we did, or what you allowed me to do last year for the shop small. And I also attached to it a document for contact info. Perfect exchange from Serena to Craig in regards to which number should I have called. This is something that I find very beneficial professionally within any groups that I participate with, is for everyone to have contact numbers so that we're not spinning at the last minute. And I know a couple of times I've sent out emails to Jack and to Amber, haven't gotten responses, so I don't know if I have the right information or the wrong information. So this would be just a great way to be able to have a condensed version. If you want, I'll complete it and then you can distribute it. The other thing I wanted to talk about was on June 11th, there is the Ironman competition. It's going to be being based out of Springfield. I know that Russ Fox has been talking with our sister communities, Agawam and Westfield, about how they might want to leverage the fact that we're going to be having a 70-mile triathlon and the bikers are coming right through Southwick.
Yeah.
Out of Granville, and how you might want to leverage it. My thoughts were to have Mike connect with the select board and see about sending that dining guide that you've put together, so that that can be in the packets that all of their family members are participating with, so that when they come through this area, which would be almost like the last leg, they know that there's X amount of restaurants that they could visit locally.
so we're at the end of it. Springfield is the starting point.
Springfield's the starting point. Yep, and if you go online, they have a complete map of the bicycle loop for the June 11th event. It's a real big event. They're expecting a lot of participants, a lot of visitors. So it might be a great way for us to also introduce Southwick to even folks in the Springfield and the Holyoke area that might not think about coming this way. Just another alternative.
For some people, they don't like crossing a river. It's like
I know,
people here
I've
don't
got
wanna
4
go there.
friends that
Yeah.
won't cross the river. But for something like this, it might be a nice venue to participate with. So that's it for
Okay.
today.
So that's the first event of the year, and then in addition, well, the first huge event, because then you've got the people do like the marine training event like in October, and you've got
Oh, at the
uh,
338,
Then, yeah,
Yes.
and then the regular nationals is in
correct.
early July.
But this is something
Right,
brand
no,
new
I
that's
know.
never been in Springfield. So this is
Right.
a really cool project. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, going into old business, starting with changes in business developments in town. What I've handed out to most of you is some of the things that are going on in town. The planning board at a recent meeting
I'll share it with you.
again looked at 686 College Highway. The owner is now
Oh,
looking
it's not
at
hitting you anyway.
dividing up the 91 acres into 5 parcels of various sizes. The planning board didn't make any final decisions or anything on it. At the same time, the owner, being the successor to
Right.
Driven Land, and before that, Fallbrook, all these other tobacco companies back since 1944, is being sold. The closing is supposed to be this summer. They're not just buying this piece of property, they're buying the whole company, which has properties in Connecticut, North Carolina, Florida, and other places. So they're buying the whole corporation this summer for, I can't remember, $600 or $700 million or whatever. Also, 74 College Highway. The town agreed to a agreement with the people that are going to buy it and build a building to grow marijuana. That group of investors has kind of split up a bit. And they came to a selectmen's meeting a couple of months ago and they walked in. Two from the quote, new buyers and two from the old buyers, and they said, we just put together an agreement this afternoon and we have nothing in writing. We're in a week or two, we'll have something for you. That was last fall. At the selectmen's meeting Monday night, the chairman of the select board said, we're still waiting for something in writing as to who the new buyers are and are they going with the agreement we came to with the previous people, or are we gonna be renegotiating? He says, I don't know what's going on. So they're gonna make some efforts to contact one of the attorneys they thought was involved with the property and also with the people to kind of nail down, is this new group coming in or not? Are they gonna live with the same agreement? Or are they gonna be renegotiating with the town, or exactly what's what? Because they've had it on their agenda for months and they kept saying, well, what's the status? And they would say, we don't know. We'll see if we have any updates next month or next week. The steakhouse at 101 Plum Grove Road, formerly known as Louis B's, Lake Life 101, et cetera, et cetera. It opened a couple in the last week or two. And there's been some reviews, some good and some bad on Facebook, but that's one of the dangers on Facebook. Anyone can make a comment. I can say your stuff is great, or I can say it's lousy, which was something that Amber had brought up at the last meeting. But anyway, good luck to them. The select board has received an agreement, which they haven't signed yet, because apparently it's still in process, for a marijuana growing facility on Hudson Drive, where the old greenhouses are. That's been in process on and off for the last couple of years, but nothing's been finalized on it in terms of actually doing whatever construction they have to do, et cetera. One of the selectmen for the last couple of select board meetings, and he brought it up again Monday night, was talking about, he did a presentation to the other two selectmen, talking about the fact that communities that have retail marijuana sales can bring in an awful lot of money, and he used the example of Great Barrington that now brings in like $1 million or $2 million a year. The first year was only partial year, and it was only one retailer. Now apparently they have 4. And he was saying, you know, there's a lot of money. So he wants the select board to put the question at the annual town meeting and have the residents vote on it. Because they did an informal survey with our real estate tax in January where they sent it out and said, what do you think of marijuana retail? Yes or no? And apparently it was like 54, 55% said no, and the balance said yes. He's saying, ignoring that brief results, he says, let's actually have it at the town meeting and go from there. If you put in this link, it'll be a link to a whole long article that talks about how much money Great Barrington has brought in each year from marijuana. So I just, as I went looking for it on Tuesday after the meeting Monday night, and I found this article that I thought was interesting in terms of having some data. And then
So what is the point?
his point is he wants retail marijuana to be legal in town, and he's of the opinion the town could bring in $1 million or $1.5 million or more per year.
So that's the only criteria that we have on making decisions is whether or not something brings in money.
That's just what, I think that's just what he
That
brought
was,
up.
that was one member of the select board Monday
I'm
night.
just trying to understand the makeup of the town here. If that's our only criteria,
Well,
there's a lot of things we get
No,
involved with.
there's a lot of things we could tax, but we don't.
Yeah.
Because another member of the select board has been saying for the last 8 or 10 years that he's been on the board, that he doesn't want to burden anyone. Therefore, he didn't want the meal tax. He didn't want a number of other things, but this new selectman is pushing for this to see,
So if he puts it on, this is my understanding, I brought this up earlier, my understanding is because even though it was close to 50-50, because the no's were just a little bit higher
Mhm.
ranking, even if it goes to voting, if it goes to the town voting, it has to be, I think, a 2/3. If, don't quote me on this, but this is what my understanding is, it has to be like a 2/3 vote approval. And a
Because
1/3,
it's
because it's
zoning.
already been said no on
Right.
that survey. So now the next step is it actually has to be, it can't be like a, 51, 49.
but the
For a
way.
yes, it'd have to be a full 2/3
The way
passing.
somebody can get something to pass in Southwick, we saw it in 2015, 2016 with the school construction. If you can get 40 or 50 people who never go to a selectmen's meeting, but they're registered voters in town, whatever it is that you want will pass. I mean, that's the reality. But you're right, Craig. The basic issue is what do we want
Right,
to improve the town?
I think,
That's why it didn't pass the
But-
first time around.
but he was just asking for it to be part of the.
Right,
And just
Yeah.
giving statistics on it. Okay.
right. Yeah,
I don't know what that's got to do with leadership. I mean, we're having this master plan done and so forth to see what we want this culture of the town to look like. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of this whole thing, we're gonna start introducing things that may be the antithesis of what we really want. So it just seems to me that when somebody first, the first words out of somebody's mouth is, how much money can we make off of it? It seems to be pretty disingenuous to me as far as the big picture goes, but anyway.
Which
go
seems,
ahead, Inga.
The process for getting something voted in our town is you have to put forth first a warrant. And that's through a citizen's petition. Once that citizen's petition has been signed off by X amount of registered voters, then it goes to become a warrant on our town meeting. So what Mr. Perone is wanting to do is to have it go to vote as a warrant at the town meeting, see if the town would agree to pass it. Because the town agreed in 2018 not to sell marijuana. But I think what's really forcing it is our sister city in Westfield has had numerous dispensaries open. There's data that's being generated from there that obviously if our town is looking at empty spaces with our real estate, then let's pop a dispensary in it. But then there's also the fear of oversaturation. So there's a lot of pros and cons, and there's so many articles out there on it. But this will go for a town warrant, and then the town can vote that day.
One of the things I understand is when Massachusetts first made it legal, they said you can charge up to 3% to the retailer on their sales. And then on top of that, you can have another up to 3% if you're having an impact. Apparently now there's some court issues, there's some battling in some parts of the state. That maybe the extra 3% is more like a bribe and shouldn't be in there. So it's not settled, as I say, it's not settled law yet. So if you're relying on the 6% to vote yes. Don't, the chickens may run away, they're not, may or may not be out there to roost.
I know West Springfield's looking at that too.
Right. I think Westfield has 3 or 4 already, Northampton has, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something, and one is already closed.
Yeah, right.
And the other consideration is, where are we gonna get customers from? Are they really gonna come down from Westfield, or are they gonna come over from Springfield?
Or are they gonna come from Connecticut?
Or are they gonna come from Connecticut? Now,
But it's not
the-
legal.
It's legal. in
Yes, it
Connecticut
is.
now.
It's
Yeah.
legal in
Right.
Connecticut.
But Connecticut has a limit of, I believe it's 25 for the entire state. And currently, the closest one is 20 or 25 miles away. One of the things this selectman mentioned on Monday night is he thinks the town would get a lot of customers coming from Connecticut. I don't know. It just, the one issue, and I think this will come up in the vote and leading up to the vote. It's not as bad as some people thought it was gonna be back in 2015, 2016. How good it is, I honestly don't know. He's, as he said Monday night, he's not pushing for it, because he's a police officer in Westfield, but he's going for the cash, which is Craig's point. I don't know. I think as EDC members, we should try to get word out there of what the issues, what the facts are, and not try taking positions. You know, that's up to the voters, that's up to the opponents, the proponents, etc. And see what happens, but even saying yes would only be the first step at the May town meeting, because then you also then have to change some of the zoning laws as to where this could be operated. Because originally, if you look at the current zoning laws in town, even for growing, it has to be in areas zoned industrial or commercial. It can't be in residential areas, etc. That's why that little spot, 74 College Highway, and the spot on Hudson Drive, those are zoned industrial. That's why they can grow it, not no retail, just growing it. But then you'd have to tweak the town zoning if we voted yes at the town meeting to then add, I assume something, I'm not a lawyer, but to add something in there saying that retail marijuana would be legal in the industrial zone or in whatever zone. So I think it's more than just the one vote before the thing would be finalized. But again, I don't know the dog in this race, whatever people vote or pro or con, it's up to the population.
You say tweaking though, Mike, I mean, that's what's got us in trouble historically around here is depending on who's in control and so forth, they start amending bylaws and tweaking zoning and so forth to fit their own needs. And, you know, I mean, at some point, if whether or not we have positions, it seems like we need to stand up to some kind of a stability here where we can't just randomly, depending on who's in leadership, start altering things. It's just no way to live. I mean, we see it at the federal level, and how does that screw up people with tax planning and all that? And now we're doing it right at the local level.
Going along with that, in yesterday's Westfield News is a public notice for a public hearing to tweak zoning on College Highway, where a piece of property is currently zoned commercial industrial. They had talked last year about putting storage in there, storage facility right next to senior housing. And the people living in that senior housing went ballistic, and I understand why. So now what they're gonna be coming up at this planning board hearing at the end of the month is to tweak that so that you can have residential, and they're talking now about putting in condos. It's a 3 or 4 acre parcel. I don't know how many condos they want or whatever, and it wouldn't be age
Next to the hash
restricted
house. Over that way.
across the street.
Yeah, across the street, yeah.
Where is it?
Across from the hash house.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So again, it fits in with you're just saying, you've got to be careful how you tweak and how you.
Can I just
modify
ask,
zoning.
what's the zoning difference with a retail marijuana? Why would that be
It-
a zoning issue?
Because currently that kind of stuff, retail or growing has to be an industrial
So
area.
retail is falling under the growing as well?
Apparently, I'm not a
Okay.
lawyer, and I
Okay.
don't know if they would have to tweak it
Okay.
further to
Yeah.
account.
I don't know
I could see
either.
the growing, they might consider instead of agriculture, they might consider
Right, yeah.
manufacturing,
I'm not
because they do
sure.
a lot of processing of the material is. But, yeah, maybe the retail will be separate, but it would seem us on the Economic Development Committee should only be looking at it from, is it going to be good to develop business in town? Irregardless of what our personal feelings might be.
Right, that's why not get into voting, it's like the other potential development last year at 686 College Highway. If you read all the newspaper articles were telling you various boards had voted yes or no. It even suggested that the selectmen had voted, even though they hadn't voted,
Mhm.
that they had voted yes, and that the planning board had already voted yes when they had never came to a vote. It's just, you gotta be a little careful about getting the facts
Mhm.
straight. And with a lot of these kind of things, I don't see much of a benefit of us trying to vote,
Yeah.
yes, we should do this, or no, we
Mhm.
shouldn't, when it's that controversial in the community. So we've got that,
Can I just make a comment to that, Michael?
sure,
But we also have the public forums for us, the citizens of our community, to go to the select board meetings in public comments and express our concerns or our endorsement. The same thing. with
as
the
an
planning board.
individual,
Right,
not
right,
representing.
not representing a group.
Mhm.
Because
And-
over the last 2 years, people on various other boards ran into trouble because they represented as if they represented their board. And they were all in favor of or all against X, Y, Z. That's tricky unless you actually do take a vote
Right,
Mhm.
and say, we're either against this or we're in favor of this. But you're right, as an individual, you've got the right.
I mean, I know when I've made public comments, I say I'm stating this as me
Right, as a
personally,
private
not
citizen.
as a private citizen, not as
Right.
some, part of EDC.
And the planning board has that, well, all of the commissions do. So that's where, Craig, to your comment, I think the more people that want to express what their opinions are, there are forums to do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't go to these meetings.
Right. But part of the basic thing though, is to get the facts on the table.
Correct.
How much could the town get? Could they get the 3% and then the other 3%? Or because of what's happening in the state, could they only get just the 3% and the other 3% off the table? As well as you're always guessing, no matter who you are, as to how much business there would be, how much revenue would be coming in that you're getting your 3% or whatever number of. If it's 3% of 100,000 or if it's 3% of 2 million, makes a big difference. But it still goes back to Craig's point of if you do everything that way, then we should be promoting drink on Friday and Saturday nights and get a special act of the state legislature for the town to get a little revenue off every buck in town. I don't know if you want to go that route, because the town does have the right, every city and town in the state does, of collecting 0.75% on the sales tax for bars and restaurants. Southwick decided, that is, the select board decided, never came to a town meeting vote, that they didn't want to do that. Westfield, Agawam, most of the other communities do, and they bring in the hundreds of thousands or $500,000 or $1 million a year just on that restaurant and bar piece. If you go on that link to Great Barrington, they've got the numbers in there as to how much they get in from hotels in town and bed and breakfasts and restaurants and bars, and it's a substantial chunk of money. But you have to decide up front. Is this the route you wanna go down? Do you wanna promote that versus machine shops on Hudson Drive or other types of businesses?
Yeah, I think that my concern is more philosophical and, you know, even with an EDC hat on. There are some changes that we could make in this town that would make the town a lot of money, but it may not be good for all the rest of the businesses, so. You know, that's where we do have some responsibility.
Oh, yeah,
You know, I could probably do a lot better if I, just compromised my feelings and my morals and so forth and said, let's bring certain things in this town. I get a lot of traffic, for gas, but that's not the point here, yeah.
why don't you open a gun shop
I could do
down at
that.
320 or 326?
Do that. So my concern is though, let's say it goes on the warrant and we vote, how often, can this continue to come up? If people say no, can it come up every year?
That would be up to the politicians to decide if they wanted to bring it up. If you look at some other communities in Connecticut and Massachusetts, certain issues about 100-unit apartment complexes get voted down, it keeps coming up every year and a half,
Mhm.
because maybe the politician knows the developer and thinks that's a good idea for their community. But then ultimately, it's up to the voter to decide, do we really want to go down this route?
Okay.
Yes, I agree with you completely. Or some issues there. Any other developments, business-wise in town that anyone knows of?
Nothing different. I was gonna ask about that. So when a business comes in, you have to get a business license, right? If you're opening up a business. Are they giving you information when a new business,
No.
gets applies?
They,
Is
they,
that
they,
something
they,
we can request that
they-
when a new
we-
business comes?
we can't,
Um,
they only need a business license. If you have an LLC or a partnership or whatever, you don't need anything from the town clerk. If you're opening a restaurant or a bar or certain other types of businesses, then you've got to deal with the Board of Health.
right, but they would have to pay taxes as a business, correct? So wouldn't they have some sort of information on that?
Ultimately, that goes to the assessor.
So isn't that something that we can get from, like, when a new business opens or when something's, a new storefront, something? like
A lot of them don't come into town hall because they're not selling food. They're not operating under Mike's Mike's Super
There's
Center.
gotta be some way that,
If,
we
if,
can,
if they've got a legal identity, then they don't come to the town clerk.
They need to get a certificate, don't they?
They don't.
Certificate.
If-
Oh, they
if-
don't. I
If
did.
they're a legal entity, they don't.
Okay.
Or if you make up a name and you say Serena's Insurance Agency, then you've got to go to the town clerk's office. If you operate it under your name or if your business is a corporation or a partnership or whatever and filed with the state, then they bypass the town clerk. But you're right. We have a list that's 2 or 3 years old from the town clerk, but the problem with the list from the town clerk, nothing against Michelle, it lists businesses that are registered over the last 10 or 15 years that some of them haven't been in business for the last 5 or 10 years. Seems like they always stay on the list for 20 or 30 years, even if they're not active anymore.
Is there a responsibility to pay your, fee every year for your AKA or?
I think it's every 2 or 3 years. I don't know. If you go on the town website and go under town clerk, it gives you all that information.
But when they don't pay every 2 or 3 years, they don't drop off the rolls?
That's up to the town clerk. I don't know what her process is.
Yeah.
It's the same as they're supposed to file their personal property for the business with the assessor's office. How that process works and all, I have no idea. You have to get that information from the assessor's office. Cause I believe you're supposed to pay personal property the same tax rate as real estate. Yeah, I don't know the details on it. So are there any other businesses in town? Any developments that you know of?
How's Krabby Joe's doing, do you know?
Every time I go by there, nothing's changed on the outside. I've been told that they've painted up and fixed up some of the stuff inside. But nothing happens on the outside. I would assume with summer coming that he'd want to get going. Cause he told me at a planning board meeting a couple of years ago, oh yeah, I'll be open by Labor Day.
What is the name?
This was the owner, he was gonna be leasing
Engelstrom?
out the building. It was the three brothers.
Four dads,
Four
possibly.
dads.
For dads.
Yeah, I think they're still working out kinks. Last I heard.
I
they're still
heard through
working
the
out-
grapevine, Roma may be getting sold,
Oh,
turned into medical offices or something.
Really,
Yeah.
that would be.
I don't know if they tear the place down or.
Probably
Just sick of
revamp it.
working,
Yeah,
Sick of work.
I'm sure.
Can't get help.
It's in there 24/7.
What's that?
oh, going along with that. Speaking of 24/7
Keeps on
restaurants,
dispensary, how to go
Santos has been sold, but the business. I've
Yeah,
seen the
we
real
talked
estate,
about that the last
right.
time. Yeah, yeah.
And they went to the select board to transfer the license. And it sailed through in about 30 seconds. Cause they
And-
said they were keeping the same name, same hours, same days of the week. One of the selectmen said, oh, your server's gonna be tip certified, and they said, once we get the license, yeah, we'll put them through the training.
Yeah.
Which is the training, you're not supposed to sell a drunk any more alcohol,
Right, yeah, tip certification.
you know.
And I did go into the steakhouse. Last week,
How was it?
good steak. They didn't have their dry aged yet, but
It was good then?
the steak was good. They have to work out some kinks. They're new.
Mhm.
So we went in, we knew they were all gonna be new staff, new restaurant, so.
That was some of the comments. that
Well,
read.
I think I
heard
put
some
the
that are
initials,
great.
somebody asked, and I knew people were gonna immediately bash, probably because, you
Yeah.
know, there are some kinks to work out, but I just said, you know, the steaks were good, the drinks were good, and if you just go in with the mindset, knowing that they're new, and you know, the staff is new,
The pictures of the inside. Doesn't look anything like,
they did a decent job.
yeah,
It'll be
It's a
interesting
different
to see.
layout?
Not much of a different layout, I wouldn't say. It's just they definitely cleaned it up a bit in there.
there's
So
what we these.
it'll be interesting to see what it looks like when, you know, when
Yeah.
the deck is open and stuff and how that's gonna work. But, yeah.
What
I
are the
wish them well.
prices like? Are they?
Oh, right, you know, like a steakhouse. I mean, if you go to a steakhouse like Max's or anywhere else, you're paying.
Okay, so
Steak
you're up
prices.
in that.
How much, only
price.
$60 for a steak?
Yeah, if you wanna, you know,
It sounds
that's
like
what.
it was Chris 40 years
Well,
ago.
Well, they're more expensive now.
Right, yeah.
So, but that's, you know, yeah, it's a steakhouse, so. I mean, if you go to the grocery store and get a steak, it's
I
a lot
know.
more expensive too nowadays, so. You know, if you're gonna have somebody cook it, but they cooked our steaks perfectly. There was no
What'd
complaints
you
on
have
the
for
steak.
steak?
I had a ribeye.
Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
nothing better than a ribeye.
And we wish them much success.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
too,
me
I
too.
do.
Too.
Yeah.
So anything else going on with businesses in town?
What's across the channel, there, across the ramp there from them? What is that, used to be the,
Oh, the bar
Nora's?
shop,
what is it now?
Fields on Norris,
Yes,
oh, the bar shop, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
is that all up and running then?
that's
Has
been,
been.
that's been up and running.
yeah.
They don't serve food though.
They don't, I think they'll do like a
Charcuterie,
a
yeah.
charcuterie board once in a while or something like
They
that.
seem to be fancy coffees and liqueurs.
So they have specialty like drinks and martinis and different stuff, and they use that, is it Ben's Beans, or I think it's Ben's Beans, and he does his own coffee. He has really gourmet coffee, and so he kind of
And they steam it
incorporates
or
that.
something?
Yeah, well, they kind of yeah, and he
Yeah.
kind of incorporates it into drinks and stuff like that, so, and they have little like gift and signs and things in there, a little shop.
Who's that owner?
I believe it's the same owner.
This same woman,
Jen?
Jen,
I believe so.
she owns
I don't
that.
believe I don't believe I think she's a manager running it though.
Yeah.
The same as she owns where Lily Bees used to be, but it's different people that are now leasing it from
Right.
her. And she's also leasing the brass rail.
And she did a lot of work in there.
So she
Yeah.
has, wedding receptions and
Prom was
kind of
there.
quasi.
Yep, the prom was
Yeah,
there
all
for,
sorts of
yep,
events.
last year.
Okay, so nothing else new there. Um, let's talk about the mission we've been,
Yes.
Amber had put it together. Remember, we had a couple of different things from different towns and we want, somebody suggested adding one sentence or two onto a base that Amber had put together. The mission of the Economic Development Commission is to maintain, promote, foster, and service economic growth and balance of residential, agricultural, commercial, cultural, and industrial in the community. To facilitate growth and revitalization of our existing businesses while attracting new investments that will complement the character of our community. The EDC will work toward a diversified economic base that offers employment opportunity and a quality of life that can be enjoyed by all who live, work, or visit our community. Comments?
Looks good.
Craig, do you still have a copy of it?
I do, yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so I went off of your, what you guys had liked off of one of the other mission
Mhm.
statements from one of the smaller communities, as well as what I had originally put together. I
Right.
just kind of, so it wasn't plagiarizing, I kind of revamped the words a little bit, added a little extra.
What do you think, Michael?
Sounds good. I mean,
It's a mouthful, but it's when but not to break up the sentences and you keep adding and this and that, you know what I
Right.
mean? I just kind of incorporated all, so it would just kind of fit cohesively.
yeah, because you said, you look at other communities, maybe in Connecticut or in Western Mass. And,
Some have a couple sentences, some have
Right.
paragraphs,
right, yeah, some of them have 3 or 4 or 5 bullets.
depending. Well, we were gonna talk about doing bullets afterwards, but this was just the
Right,
initial
in terms of
mission,
getting
yeah,
the wording.
yeah.
As came up a couple of years ago with the public that attended one of our meetings. We're not a licensing board. It's not like you come to us if you want to open a bar and restaurant. That's handled by the select
Right.
board is the licensing commission. We don't make zoning decisions, so we're not the planning board or the board of appeals or whatever. So should we,
Well, Craig is still looking, are you still looking it over?
Well,
What's
just
the-
a grammatical thing, I mean, that, two should be, I mean, it's
Oh, where did I,
either a comma before that, or if we want it run on, or new sentence.
where are we
Which
looking at?
one?
The two,
Yeah.
to
Well, I was
facilitate
wondering about
growth?
that, promote, foster, and service with a comma, but I guess that works.
Did I do a spell
Yeah.
check or not?
Well, no, I just mean it's not a sentence there, right?
Oh, okay, two, instead of starting a new sentence?
What's that?
To facilitate growth?
Is that what you're talking?
Yeah, it's not really a sentence, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so we just
So-
need to either put a comma before that and continue, or,
Let's do the EDC will, or the EDC. EDC,
And facilitate growth?
well, because there's already an EDC,
Oh, yeah, there's the.
Could always
about-
add in addition, comma to facilitate growth.
Yeah, or the EDC, I just lost it, or the EDC will help to facilitate growth. Or will,
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
What's that?
The EDC will help to facilitate growth, et cetera.
will help to the EDC will help to facilitate growth and revitalization of our existing businesses while attracting new investments. That will complement the character of our community. I actually like strive better. The EDC will strive to facilitate growth. Is that,
Well, I don't know that you can say EDC because we're talking about the mission initially here is to, and then you can't jump and say the EDC is separate from the mission, so we're still talking about the mission. So we need to say, if we want to say and to facilitate growth, and we can do that, I don't, you know.
Microsoft has updated their spell check and grammar in the last couple of weeks, and it's doing a much better job than it's done for the last 10 years. But they bought a product about 20 years ago, but they never used it. Now they've merged it in there. Which
Well,
would
maybe
then
we
be
Maybe we say
tweaking
additionally, it is
extensions.
to facilitate, you know.
so just write additionally to facilitate, additionally,
It is to, the
Okay.
mission is to, or it is to. We just need to get something in there just to.
How about if we get rid of the period in word two, and we say by facilitating growth and
Perfect.
revitalization?
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's good.
Mhm. Keep it simple. So we're gonna make by,
And then facilitate.
Yeah.
Now it's facilitating.
facilitating growth and write it, yeah. There you go. Anything else, Craig? That you're seeing?
I think that's good. I mean, we can always amend this or
Right.
whatever. right?
Absolutely,
We just need to get something down,
absolutely.
so.
I know we talked about getting one for a couple of years now, so.
Yeah, we need it.
So
Alright.
are we ready to vote on it at this point? As you say, we can always,
We need a motion. I would move to adopt this as our,
I'll second.
all those in favor, Michael McMahon, yes?
Serena Fuller, yes.
Craig Samuelson, yes.
John Cody.
Amber Bach, yes.
Well, we've got
Thanks,
that
Amber, for
done.
doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we can do minutes next month. In terms of last Saturday, Serena and I went before the select board and the FinCom. And the person before us went on a little longer than the scheduled time. And the FinCom was in a good mood, so then they listened to us. And it seemed to go pretty well. How much money we'll get,
Right.
you know, we decided down the road, because they don't tell you at the meeting. But we didn't get questions like, why do you
Right,
need a website?
Right,
Why do you?
right.
The comment
right.
that did lead into a very interesting conversation, though, at the meeting before they went on to the next board or department. The selectmen and Carl did say that they were thinking about changing their internet provider in terms of a website. And that they're updating to some other package that provider offers, or going to a different provider. They did say this Civic something or other company does hundreds of municipal websites around the country. But they were thinking of upgrading, because they said with technology and what the public looks for today versus 5 or 10 years ago, there are some features and things that the current system doesn't provide. And as a result, you've got various boards and departments creating websites, creating Facebook pages, trying to maintain them, trying to pay outside companies to maintain them. So the town itself is looking at, well, as one of them said, we don't have enough work that we would have a full-time person doing it. It would have to be a part-time responsibility, but that they're looking at potentially other providers or other software so that you could have a more cohesive for all the departments, boards, committees, managers, et cetera. That's something that they're looking at. They didn't give a timeline, so I can't say what'll happen in 30 or 60 days. And then one of the new members of the FinCon that I had never seen before said, well, you realize that if you're moving everything onto a new site, it's going to require somebody to physically do some work. So it's not gonna happen in a week or two or a couple of weeks. This is gonna be multi-week process. Carl also said, and this is the first time I ever heard of this, is they're thinking of changing the town domain name to finally have, and he didn't say what, but there would be a .gov,
Okay,
which many places around the
Absolutely.
country have been
Yeah.
doing for years.
interesting.
So again, it looks like things are gonna be happening in that respect. For all the town departments, boards,
Good.
committees, et cetera. But in terms of advertising, in terms of getting word out about things. Some members of the FinCon did acknowledge that, the town needs to do a better job than what they're doing. So at least there was no animosity.
That's
saying,
good, yeah,
we're
as in
in
the past, yeah,
tough
that's great.
economic
Yeah,
circumstances,
right.
we're cutting everybody 50%.
Right.
or something. But there was none of that kind of discussion.
Or fully questioning you and what we're
Right.
doing, that's good,
Yeah. sure.
yeah, that's really.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it went very well. Didn't question too much.
Because it looks like from the department that was there before us, was the town clerk, treasurer, and tax collector, that in the next couple of months, maybe it'll come up at the annual town meeting when we're voting on the budget or something. That three departments in one is gonna disappear. Apparently, we're the last town in the state to have three departments merged into one. There had been another town, but they've split off already to make it 2 or 3 different departments. And it looks like that's what's gonna happen in Southwick. They didn't say how they're gonna be dividing it up, but apparently to make that happen, once the town decides exactly what they want, it then takes an act of the state legislature to make it real. Because apparently there's something in Massachusetts law from 50 or 100 years ago that all this stuff is one, and there's been legislation in the past splitting this stuff off, but apparently the town would have to get a sentence or two or whatever passed by the legislature to put in whatever their new method is gonna be, and I don't know how they're gonna divide the three departments. So the town was looking at a lot of change.
Yeah.
In terms of that stuff, and of course, a couple of months ago, they added a new position, and the person is in the position now. An assistant to the chief operating officer. So Carl has an assistant, and this is not a clerk. This is an actual person who's gonna be taking over procurement and personnel, and I don't know what else. So now this person goes to the selectmen's meetings, was at the Saturday meeting, taking notes, et cetera, to understand how the town operates.
Sure.
Okay, anything else?
Under old or new or?
Either.
Okay, so I'm gonna propose, can we on the April meeting,
Mhm.
Inga, if you don't mind, would you sit in on, can we set aside some time during the April meeting to go over this a little bit more in depth? And that way you can sit in, we can kind of ask questions and we can kind of all collaborate together a little bit on what you're doing as well as what our thought process is on some of it as well. Cause I know there's a couple of things that I'm personally kind of questioning and just have, you know, some other ideas or some questions about, and that way you can sit in, you can kind of tell us and we can all, is everybody okay with that? Cause I know we all have a little, I
Right,
think
I thought we were doing that this meeting, but no problem doing it in April.
okay. That way we can. That way it's put on the agenda and we can, you know what I mean? That was all.
Okay, anyone else? Have anything you can bring up?
No, I think that's
Okay.
it.
No, I'm all set.
I do want to thank you guys both for going to that budget
Oh, no
meeting,
problem.
so thank you for doing that.
Did you put
I'm
this
sorry.
together?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he gave it to everybody on the,
I gave it to everybody on the FinCom and the select board.
so that they would have a copy.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I know it is.
So what you do is you go there before the meeting starts, you put it in every place. And then I actually had an assistant where no one was gonna be sitting, who then took the extra copies and handed them back to me. It would be the chairman of the FinCom, formerly known as a select board member. Good, what one of the people did say that on the last page, when you've got more stuff in here than you're asking for, I said, as you can see, because I had a note on there, the information about website, Facebook, etc. I said, we only got that information from the vendor on March 1st.
Right,
We didn't know what would be entailed and what the
Right.
related costs would be.
right.
And I wrote it and I said it to them as well. Ultimately, we know the decision will be made by the select board and the FinCom as to what their proposed budget is. And it gets voted on by the public at the town meeting in May. And then, as is inevitable, we then live with whatever amount is approved.
So should we also maybe, next meeting, bring up voting on that website? Because we haven't formally discussed it. I think we still need to leave the Facebook aspect out because that's extra money and he has not, was it Martin? Martin hasn't gotten back to me whether or not it can be, I think that
Thing about, Right.
the privacy and stuff like that.
Right.
So if we hold off on that aspect, but maybe discuss going forward with having them do the website,
When do we need that 2,000 spent by?
June,
Oh,
right? Is it
Right.
June?
Yeah.
And, but we will know in May.
we'll know at the annual town meeting. Whatever's approved.
do we need to have Martin Well in action before June, or, I mean, you don't?
I would think it would take a little bit to get a website up and running and kind of, you know, tweaking it and having us look at, you know what I mean? And we could set, you know, so if it's April, and then we won't know till the following month, but we need to spend that money in 2 months anyway, so when, if it's, what was it again, for? Four eighty,
Set up.
the monthly update, that's only if we update it.
Right.
And then the annual, so it's 580, but then wasn't there like a tax break on it too or something?
Well,
tax
you,
deduction?
you're paying the flat amount rather than the 6.25%.
So it'd be like 580, I think, about,
Yeah,
is what would come out of this year's 2,000.
I mean, we wouldn't, you can't put any in escrow as far as updates? I
Well,
mean,
see, what I had to do for this document is assume it gets updated every month for an hour.
Right,
If you don't ask for the money, you don't get it. The reality is, because one of the FinCom members did say, well, I think a website could be done a little cheaper than that. But we may not be updating it every month, or we may be able to do
Right.
the updates ourselves. But it just, you have to ask for the maximum.
Right,
Mhm.
but I think what he's saying is we can hold an escrow like over that 2,000, like if we have that as my understanding is if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
right.
So we can't sit there and say, or, you know, if there is money left over, can we put it towards the following year for that website?
You have to word it a little differently,
Probably
but yeah.
That's, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
we could probably do, we can look at the May calendar. And maybe have our meeting after the annual town meeting. So we could then make a decision once we know for sure how much money we're getting or not getting.
Cause we
But
still
we
gotta
won't
spend that
spend it.
$2,000.
Yeah, we still have to
We gotta
spend it,
this
Right.
year.
right? So I mean, we might as
But-
well, if it's for a year, what else are we gonna spend it on at this point? I mean, unless, I mean. And I do wanna talk, you know, when Inga comes next
Right.
next month too, so we can kind of discuss some of that, cause that might
Right.
add into some cost as well.
Right.
From,
So you think economic could finance some of the gifts or whatever?
well, that's what I wanted to discuss. I'm not sure. I think we should be the ones financing the gifts. I think asking for donations from the businesses is kind of a offset of what we're trying to do. So I think if
I
we
think
put
what
the,
Amber was saying is. Businesses in town are being hustled by the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Rec Center, all these other groups and organizations looking for money.
and as as a commission, is it considered a donation or, because then if it's a donation, then we actually have to we actually have to turn that in, and there has to be some paperwork done on that as a donation as well. So there's some different entities that kind of go with that. So that's why I want to have, like, sit down, get a little more information and know. So if we funded some of the gifts, like a gift basket, you know, for whoever went, I just need to know a little more information about how it's working as well.
So we have precedents for this stuff, I mean, where we could find out where we stand legally or no?
I have a question in to somebody, and so I know that they were gonna ask. I think the attorney or something, how that works.
I can talk to Russ. For him to get some information.
Yeah, I asked
Thank
him, I vaguely asked him, and so he said he was gonna ask the town attorney, just to kind of find out how that worked. But again, I haven't heard back, but I know there's been a lot going on too, so I'll reach back out to him.
So we should know
maybe
by
the
next meeting, hopefully. I mean,
I'll try and ask next week. What that is, and then for the April meeting, then we can know
Right,
kind of where that stands.
So what about the spending of the 2,000 for this?
So I think what we would do is then after we talk to Inga, then we'll know in April, and then we can talk
Right.
about if we're gonna wait till May. Do the website, once we know what our budget is or what have you, as well as any type of gifts or anything else that we need to do.
The
Those
key-
those
the key
gifts would be
thing is-
next year anyway, right?
What's
Those
that?
gifts would be the next budget anyway. It seems like we need to do that website right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
understand. that
Yeah,
case,
it's true. Yeah,
Because unless you have plans to spend $2,000 between now and June, definitely on something else.
I mean, I'd like to get
understand why
one
we
going on
Want to
this.
get it initial
right.
expenditures.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
well,
like to
that's
get-
why I said let's vote on it now.
Well, yeah, I think we should. Right, I mean, at least the website portion and let's
Yeah.
get
Right,
that out of
and
the
the
way.
updates are within our control.
Right.
Yeah.
But then should we worry or not worry about the fact of the town maybe changing providers and doing all these other things? Cause it just, they gave no impression if this was something that's gonna happen in the next 2 months or 2 years from now.
Right, we need to move along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
So do we want to allocate $500 for the website and the domain name? It was $480 for the website and $100 for the domain.
So 580.
$580.
I move to do that.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Who seconded that? Did you
Yes.
second?
Okay.
And what else would we spend the money on?
Well,
Well,
we
so
can-
we have to do the Westfield Chamber, right?
Right, we're
And
gonna
then-
do chamber,
We were gonna
And
just
we
grab
can also-
signs.
and we can also do some signs, because again. Going off what Inga was telling us about this particular upcoming event, and you could use the same signs. For Rugged Maniac, for the Nationals, for everything else. I was thinking this through my head. When you come out of, motocross, or if you come out of Wally Park, because they do excess parking in Wally
Mhm.
Park, these events. They take some of the traffic and they feed it down toward Depot Street
Mhm.
Correct.
and some up toward Feeding Hills Road, because they. One road can't do, can't serve all the volume. Is to have, let's say, at the corner of Depot Street, and it could be the same type of sign on Feeding Hills Road. A sign that's in front of you that points out food, Lenero, gas, shops, which would then be feeding people over to College Highway. In the case of the sign on Feeding Hills Road, it could have food going both ways, because you've got Malicious and you've got the Crate Place to the right, everything else to the left. You could have two arrows for food. People go in either direction.
It'd compete with their, I think they have a sign that says traffic with the arrow this way,
No, but I'm
you know,
saying,
or,
we can
I
have a
know,
sign
yeah,
next to
yeah,
it.
we could, yeah, I
The
agree.
sign we normally have out
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
shop local, shop small,
Yeah.
I took it in before the snow.
Oh, good,
Otherwise, I'd have to be
Yeah.
under the snow.
yeah,
And we had no idea how much snow we get. So we could have some of
Yeah.
those types,
sure,
type signs. And they can be used for multiple activities. We're not trying
Correct.
to promote just one activity.
absolutely.
And, the one, the shop local, shop small, that I had out here is quasi destroyed from being out there for 5 or 6 months with all the rain and everything else. So I'll have to replace a couple of those kind of signs, but that's not a big expense. We can probably do that.
I have a question about the website, while I'm thinking about it. We had talked about trying to do some types of competition in town, such as beautification types
Mhm.
of things. How do we use the website for that, and who handles?
Oh, it would
that?
be a matter of putting information on the website as to whatever the event is. Or the activity or
And
whatever. it is.
So he had said that, remember, we would have access, we would put somebody here in
Right.
charge of access, of being able to be on the
Update it,
domain and
right.
update it. So somebody would be able to go in and say, this is a new thing that this is something we're doing.
Here's a tab of that
Right.
event, and then you've got all the information on
Right,
whatever.
but I
the
mean, if
event
we
is.
wanted him to develop something that was attractive and pique people's interest, and,
That's what he's charging the $480 for.
well, no, I'm talking about additional, every
Oh.
time we want to have an event,
Or update, you mean?
I don't, yeah, I guess.
Those are $80 for him to do it, or we can do
Or
it.
we could do
We
it
can add it on.
But we're not going to be able to do artwork and so forth, like if we're gonna have a coffee hour or something like that.
Oh, some of that stuff we can do
Inga?
for the,
Yeah, one of the things that Martin also had said, is it only takes him, that $80 is for the hour.
Right.
Or do you
It
want to
only
charge?
takes him
Right.
15 minutes, he's
Yeah.
only gonna charge 20 cents.
Right.
for it.
Right.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, to have somebody consistently working with it and massaging it would probably be better than the commission doing it. So for that $20, you're gonna get a little bit more bang, and it's gonna be done, and you can check it off the list. That's my opinion.
so do we want to approve at this stage? $580 for the website, we've done that in effect,
Mhm.
Mhm.
okay. And, I'll get some signs made, because I say the Small Business Saturday, the shop small, shop local, I've got to replace those signs.
Mhm.
Once they're out there 5 or 6 months, they start deteriorating.
Craig, since you spearheaded the website originally, do you want to go talk to Martin and initiate and
We
figure
don't
out
have
how,
the bandwidth to do that right now.
you don't have what?
The bandwidth to do that right
That's
now,
fine.
so I'm just thinking, yeah, in interest of getting it going on.
Sure.
The key thing is,
I'll-
we can get the purchase order in
Mhm.
process.
Do you want to
But
do
that
it since
wouldn't-
you're gonna be submitting it anyway to the
Yeah.
town? You want to go in and talk to Martin?
Sure, the first step is you put in a request for purchase order.
Right,
With the town accountant. 2 or 3 days, work days later, you get it. That is then using up part of your $2,000.
Yeah.
So that's money is saved,
right,
and then we can talk to him. And then
perfect, okay,
go from there.
perfect,
The,
Okay.
the key thing. With the town accountant's office is to get the purchase order
right,
in process.
right, I
So
understand, yeah,
then they
yeah,
consider the money
Yeah.
spent.
yep.
Mhm.
So once you get that, you'll go in
Right.
and talk to Martin, perfect,
Right.
okay, good.
Okay, do we, need to do anything else tonight?
I guess I'm unclear on as far as website goes. Martin does need some direction though.
Oh, yeah, we'll give him direction. And he can start with the existing one that's there, and he can do better.
Well, he
graphics
designed one,
and
right? He gave us
Yeah,
that
he
like
gave
a-
us,
Right.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
right here, so he
that's
has,
And I think he wanted us to critique it.
so,
and-
yeah, so then
tweak it.
we can have him, give us, we can get updates and stuff like that and kind of like go with us and figure out, if this is good. Sorry, I have it in here. I just had it right here.
Next, there were 2 or 3 sheets in color.
Oh, it's 1, 2? No, that's part of it. Oh, here's the. No, this was Facebook. Wait a minute, let me see. Yeah, this is it. This was the Facebook one option. So there's gonna be different tabs and he said he can change the tabs how we want, for different things as well. And there could have been a tab for, like a Facebook link, but there could be a tab for,
It's-
events,
What's that
contacts,
banner?
different
Is it
things.
showing the town hall?
Yeah, so we'd have to pick a generic, which,
Yeah.
I'm fine with going with the town hall, cause
Yeah.
we're,
It's similar if you go on the existing one, on the left-hand side, there's tabs. You click on those, that brings you to a different
Right.
page.
Mhm.
to information, or it brings you to some other website that has whatever the data or the information or whatever you're looking for.
Inga?
One of the things that Martin was really focusing on is the business directory. That's gonna be a critical piece because he can then, once you click onto that, and you wanna go to, say, auto glass businesses. It will then link you directly to our own local businesses sites. So.
That's gonna
it's gonna
require,
be-
that's gonna require some time and effort,
right,
because a lot of these websites, getting their actual website.
Yep, but luckily that's what he does. for
No, I'm just saying, it takes time, it doesn't,
Yeah,
it's
let's
not
gonna
like
happen
you have an
overnight.
Excel spreadsheet with the name and address of the business. We're looking for more than that.
Mhm.
Yeah. A lot of businesses in this town either don't have websites, they haven't updated in 10 years, or they're cryptic in terms of the name, the domain name on the website is not the name of the business.
let's
You know what I mean?
focus on the goals, not the obstacles.
Yeah, but I'm saying that takes time to develop that. The key steps are getting the money
Mhm.
allocated so that it goes to that kind of stuff.
So I'm hearing two different things. Are we to say that if somebody wants auto glass, that place of business has to have a website or an address and a phone number?
Either, they could be either or, whatever they have.
Right,
Yeah, or it could
Right.
just be like,
Right.
the business in town, or if they don't have something.
right. So we're talking about a list of businesses
Mhm.
And some can have a
and
hyperlink
classifications.
if they have it in their site.
Right.
So we don't have anything like that right now.
We've got bits and pieces of it. Most of the businesses we don't have.
Hmm.
Restaurants and bars we do, because I put in the hours to pull all that information together. A lot of businesses in town don't have a location. You keep your truck on Tannery Road, but you don't want the customer walking into you on Tannery Road.
So do
You
we
want
have,
them to call a phone number for them to talk to you about whatever it is. that
but
they
do we
sell.
need to start with some kind of a list and then put some kind of an announcement on the website that if you would like to
Yeah,
be listed
Yeah,
here, then.
yeah, and he'll take care of that. He, that's what,
Yeah.
Word of mouth, and the businesses will clamor to put it on
Yeah.
themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the type of direction I'm thinking about, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
That might be a place to put a piece in Southwoods to the local businesses.
Right.
right,
To point them, whether it's bring it right into Southwoods yourself to be on the list, not have to go to you as an intermediary, have to go right to Southwoods and put it on the list. And provide all their information right to Southwoods to do it.
So, I mean, maybe Southwoods needs to have some kind of an announcement in there
That's
that,
what I'm saying.
I mean,
Yeah.
an initial announcement for everybody.
Right,
Correct.
right,
On
that's
how
what
they
she,
want it.
yeah, that's what, yeah,
You should do that just to announce you're building that website.
Right.
In town anyway,
Right.
and then put that in there, invite the businesses to self-serve.
right.
Yeah, keep it simple.
so maybe we can go in there asking how much that'll cost.
Because there is software, Chambers of Commerce. and-
Right, but for this, for Southwoods, to
For
put
the
in the advertisement, ask him how much that'll cost for that
They
advertisement.
might do it free.
He might,
Right,
Yeah.
I
because
think
I know
we
they'll
have to
do
fill
some of that,
space
they'll do
sometimes.
some stuff, so they
Right.
might do it since they're gonna come in and utilize
Like
it
a
too.
press.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but mention that.
Okay. Anything else?
So you're getting signs made up as well? How many,
Yeah.
3 of them?
For the different ones, Reading Hills Road, Depot Street, et cetera, yeah, and I get some new ones similar to what we've had for shop small, shop local, that kind of thing.
So we'll probably need to decide at the next meeting, I mean, if we're gonna have any kind of an event or.
Well, yeah.
beautification Contest that we need to,
One of the things
Spend that this year.
when you wanna meet toward the fall is, do we wanna do like a home and business show that we had done previously? Or do we wanna focus on small business Saturday and that, in fact, that whole weekend type thing? Would we want other type of events?
I'm just thinking of spending that 2,000, if we're gonna try some beautification thing or whatever, we need to think about that next meeting too as well, right? To round out the 2,000, because we won't have spent that by then, so.
No, we'll spend money on signs, we'll spend money on the website, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we might have 500 left that maybe we put towards some kind of a prize for, you know, improvements or
Right.
whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, we can finalize that at the next meeting, because that gives us time. Anything else? Well, it looks like it's about 7:14. Do we want to end the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Michael, yeah, aye.
Serena, aye.
John, I.
Again.
Number, all right.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
See you next month.